My name is Chloe Marie Santos. I'm
15-year-old Sierra Martin never expected her weekend hike to end in death. One moment she was laughing with her best friend on a mountain trail. Seconds later she collapsed, heart stopped, lifeless. But what happened next defies science and shatters belief. Pulled through a radiant tunnel, Sierra met Jesus face to face. What he showed her, 3 earth-shaking events coming before 2030, will leave you stunned. This isn't just a near-death experience. It's a divine wake-up call for the entire world. Hold on a minute. If you have not subscribed to our channel, do well to subscribe, like, comment, and share videos of this channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell.
My name is Sierra Martin Carmichael. I'm 15 years old, and I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. Most days, I'm just your average high school sophomore, trying to survive chemistry class without getting anything on fire and hoping my hair doesn't frizz too much during volleyball practice. My life wasn't perfect, but it was normal. I lived with my mom and little brother Logan, who's 11. He's the kind of kid who talks nonstop about dinosaurs and leaves his socks on every surface of the house. My dad lives about 20 minutes away and gets us every other weekend. My parents divorced when I was 10, but they still show up for the big things. We've learned to make it work, mostly. Mom's a nurse at the hospital downtown. She works long shifts, but she always tries to be home for dinner when she can. She's tired a lot, but strong in a way I can't explain. I used to sit on the kitchen floor and watch her heat up leftovers while telling stories about our patients, trying not to cry when she thought I wasn't looking. That's just who she is. At school, I cared about the usual stuff, getting decent grades, staying on varsity volleyball, and whether Marco in chemistry ever noticed I existed. He had this lopsided smile and always smelled like clean laundry. I'd scroll through his Instagram stories like they held the answers to life. Finals were coming up, and my brain felt like it was constantly juggling formulas, essays, and friend drama. My best friend Juliette Nguyen was the kind of girl everyone liked. Funny, fearless, and never afraid to call me out when I got to in my head. We'd been best friends since 6th grade, and we did everything together. Sleepovers with too much popcorn, long walks with our headphones in, pretending we were in a movie. She was my person. I spent too much time on my phone, cared too much about what people thought, and sometimes cried over things that didn't really matter. But I was 15. Life was happening one group chat and volleyball spike at a time. That Saturday, I wasn't thinking about anything deep. We were just going for a hike, like we'd done a dozen times before. I had no idea my life was about to end and begin all over again. It was a cool, clear Saturday morning when Juliet and I decided to hike Humphreys Peak. We'd done it once with our youth group the year before, but this time it was just the 2 of us. We packed snacks, filled our water bottles, and promised our moms we'd be back before dark. I even joked that I'd finally beat her to the summit. She rolled her eyes and laughed. The trail was steep in parts, but the air felt fresh and the views kept getting better the higher we climbed. We talked about everything. Our dreams, boys, her plans to apply to a summer art camp. I remember thinking how good it felt to be out there, free, alive. But somewhere past the tree line, around the last stretch before the summit, I started feeling off. It began with a strange pressure in my chest. Not sharp, just tight, like something invisible was squeezing me from the inside. I told Juliet I needed to stop for a second. She handed me her water bottle and made a joke about me getting old. I tried to laugh, but I couldn't catch my breath. Then everything happened so fast. The tightness grew worse. My arms felt heavy. My vision blurred. I remember her voice suddenly sounding far away. Panicked, scared. I tried to speak, but no words came out. Then it was like someone flipped a switch. Sound faded. The light around me dimmed. I could feel my body crumple to the ground, but I wasn't in it anymore. I wasn't scared yet. I was just floating. And then nothing. No pain, no sound, no breath. Just blackness. Complete silent blackness. I didn't know it then, but my heart had stopped. I don't know how long I was in that blackness. It could have been seconds or years. It didn't feel like time existed at all. But then, without warning, I felt something shift. It was like I rose out of deep water and took a breath, but not with lungs. I opened my eyes, or whatever part of me could still see, and I was floating, just gently hovering above the trail. Below me, I saw a girl kneeling over a crumpled body. It took me a few seconds to understand what I was looking at. It was me. I was lying awkwardly on my side, my face pale, lips slightly blue. My hiking jacket was bunched up under my back. One of my shoes had come loose. My chest wasn't rising. Juliet was shouting into her phone, pacing in a tight circle before dropping to her knees beside me. Her hands moved fast, unclipping my backpack, checking for breath, starting CPR. Her voice was shaking, but she kept her focus.
"Come on, Sierra, please come back. Please," she cried out between chest compressions. I hovered above her, watching it all with a strange kind of calm. I wasn't scared, I wasn't in pain. I could hear the wind moving through the trees, birds fluttering nearby, the crunch of gravel as Juliet shifted her knees. Everything felt so sharp, so clear, like my senses were tuned higher than normal. I wanted to call out to her, to tell her I was okay, that I was watching, that I felt peaceful, but she couldn't hear me, my voice didn't work here. Then I felt it, a soft pull from behind me, upward, not rough or sudden, more like a gentle tug on my soul, like someone reaching for my hand underwater. The light above me wasn't harsh, it glowed like morning sun coming through bedroom curtains, warm, golden, soft. Something deep inside me knew I had to follow it. I looked down one more time. Juliet was still giving me CPR, tears running down her face, and then I started to rise, not walking, not flying, just lifting slowly, effortlessly toward the light, and I wasn't afraid. As I rose higher, the forest, the mountain, Juliet, all of it began to fade. I wasn't floating over trees anymore. I was moving through a space that didn't look like anything I'd ever seen. A tunnel opened up before me, not a dark one, but full of light. Glowing, living light. It shimmered with colors I didn't even know existed. It wasn't narrow either. It felt endless, wide as a canyon and warm like sunlight on skin after a cold swim. And the deeper I went into it, the lighter I felt. I didn't feel like a 15-year-old girl who just collapsed on a trail. I felt free, whole, like I'd been carrying a weight my whole life I didn't even know was there, and now it was gone. The tunnel didn't scare me. It drew me in. It pulsed with peace. I wasn't walking or flying. I was being carried, like the air itself knew where I was supposed to go. Then just ahead, the light changed. It wasn't just glowing anymore. It was radiating from something or someone, and that's when I saw him, Jesus. He didn't need to introduce himself. The moment I saw him, I knew. He stood in the middle of the light, calm and strong. His presence was power and gentleness, all at once. His hair fell to his shoulders. His robe flowed like it was woven from light itself. But it was his eyes that held me. They weren't just brown or blue or green. They were all colors at once, like looking into a living ocean, deep and endless. I couldn't look away. His eyes didn't just see me. They knew me, every part of me, my pain, my fears, my secrets, and he didn't flinch. I wanted to fall to my knees, to apologize for every wrong thing I'd ever done, every lie, every angry word, but before I could say anything, he said my name, Sierra. That one word spoken from his mouth hit me like a wave. It was soft but full of weight, like thunder wrapped in honey, and in that one word, I felt everything. I felt his love, his forgiveness, his joy that I was there. My heart cracked open. I don't even know how to explain it. It was like every wall I'd ever built inside me, walls I didn't even know I had, just crumbled. I felt seen in a way I never had before, seen and still loved, not for what I did or didn't do, not for who I tried to be, but just for being me. I didn't want to speak. I just stood there staring at him, tears flowing without me even realizing I was crying. He smiled, and that smile, it wasn't just kindness, it was home.
Sierra, he said again gently, you are mine. And I believed him. With everything in me, I believed him. There was no shame in his presence, no fear, no distance, just a love so strong it made breathing seem unnecessary. I didn't know where I was exactly, but I didn't care, because I was with him, and I never wanted to leave. After Jesus spoke my name, everything around us seemed to shift. The light didn't fade, it deepened. It felt like we were still in the same place, yet suddenly everything was clearer, like I could see with more than just my eyes. Then it began. It wasn't a movie or slideshow, not like something you'd watch on a screen. It was my life, but not from the outside. I was inside every moment again, reliving it all at once, and also moment by moment. Past and present blended like one endless breath. I saw myself as a little girl, maybe 5, bringing water to our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Green. She'd broken her foot that summer. I didn't even remember doing it, but now I felt how it had touched her heart, how she felt less alone that day. I saw how she smiled after I left, whispering, "Thank you, Lord." That tiny act mattered more than I ever knew. Then I saw 7th grade. Jamie was being picked on at lunch again. Everyone laughed except me. I stood up and said, "Leave him alone." I felt the fear I had in my chest when I said it, but more than that I felt Jamie's relief. I felt his heart calm just from knowing someone cared. I never saw that back then, but now I did. Then came other moments. Lying to Mom about where I was, saying I'd been at Maya's when really I'd gone to Logan's party. The guilt I thought I'd buried came back, not to shame me, but to teach me. I felt the disappointment in Mom's heart, not anger, just sadness. She had trusted me, and then Logan. I had said something so harsh to him in the hallway when we broke up. I told him he was nothing. I watched it happen again, but this time I felt his side, the way my words crushed his spirit. I saw the tears he hid until I walked away. My heart sank, but Jesus didn't shame me. Instead, he showed me something deeper, how love is what really matters. Not the grades, not how many people liked my photos, or if I was popular at school. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about whether I chose love in the little moments, whether I saw people, helped them, listened, forgave. I saw places where I had loved well, and I saw places where I could have done better. And through it all, Jesus stood beside me, not judging, not condemning, just showing me gently what my life had meant so far, what it could mean. You were never expected to be perfect, he said, but you were created to love. His words sank deep. They weren't heavy, they were freeing. It wasn't about never making mistakes. It was about whether I let love lead me. And in that moment, I wanted more than anything to go back and love better. Jesus turned to me, and without a word, the space around us changed. It was like we were suddenly standing above the earth. I could see it turning slowly beneath us. Beautiful, fragile, alive. But then something shifted. A giant wave rose out of nowhere. It crashed into a coastal city, swallowing streets, homes, and people. I saw New York, parts of Florida, entire neighborhoods disappearing under muddy water. I didn't even need names. I just knew. Cities I'd only seen on TV were now sinking. Island nations vanished. Places full of life and laughter were gone in minutes. The ocean had come in like a thief, silent and unstoppable. The skies above boiled with monstrous storms, winds tearing buildings like they were made of paper. I saw people clinging to rooftops, crying out for help. I felt their fear, their helplessness, their pain, and then something unexpected happened. I saw strangers diving into the water to save others. I saw people from different religions, races, and countries holding each other up, crying together, feeding each other. A man from a country I couldn't name passed his last bottle of water to a child who didn't speak his language. Soldiers laid down weapons to dig through rubble, shoulder to shoulder with former enemies. Nations that used to fight were now sending ships full of food, clothes, and doctors. I saw hospital tents flying flags from places that used to be rivals. People hugged, wept, and worked as one. I turned to Jesus, tears running down my face. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. His eyes were soft, but full of deep sorrow. "Because crisis awakens what comfort often buries," he said. "When everything is shaken, love begins to rise." The vision broke my heart and filled it at the same time. I saw how terrible the storms were, but also how they tore down the walls people had built between each other. Fear made people remember what really matters. Not money, not power, not pride, but each other. Jesus didn't just want me to see the destruction. He wanted me to see the hope that still blooms in disaster. Even in the darkest flood, the light of love still shines. Jesus reached out his hand again, and the scene shifted once more. This time, I saw the world at night. Normally, I'd expect to see cities glowing like stars, but everything was dark, totally dark. No lights, no screens, no street lamps, just blackness stretching across countries and continents. I saw people trying to turn on their phones, radios, computers. Nothing worked, no internet, no electricity, no news, no access to banks or money. Satellites floated uselessly above us. Silent, the panic came fast. People ran to stores, only to find shelves empty. Cars lined up at gas stations, but pumps were dead. Planes sat grounded, trains stuck in place. There was confusion, fear, shouting. Some people broke windows to grab what they could. Others locked themselves inside, terrified of what might happen next. But then, slowly, the panic began to settle. I saw a man knock on his neighbor's door with an extra bag of rice. I saw people gathering in parks and backyards to cook together over fires. Someone played a guitar, and others started singing. Children who once sat inside all day were now laughing, chasing each other under the sun. I saw a group of families lighting candles at dusk, praying quietly. Their faces were calm, even peaceful. Without screens, people began to talk more, really talk. They shared stories, fears, memories. Some people sat together and read the Bible out loud. Others simply listened, tears in their eyes. Jesus stood beside me, watching it all. At first, they believed the darkness was the curse. He said gently, but they began to realize it was the silence that healed them. I watched as strangers helped each other, fix broken stoves, patch leaking roofs, and care for the elderly. I saw kids drawing with chalk on sidewalks, playing games their grandparents once played. At night, families sat close, not just to keep warm, but to stay connected. The world was still in crisis, but it was like hearts were beginning to glow again. I understood then, the blackouts took away our noise, but they gave us back something greater. We remembered what it meant to live in a community. We remembered the light inside each other, The light shifted again, and the world below us changed. I found myself looking into crowded hospital corridors and overflowing clinics. People coughed hard, grasped at the air, and some shook with odd tremors that ran through their arms and faces. Doctors hurried, swept behind fogged face shields. Nurses taped handwritten notes to doors because the computers were dead. News screens, where they still worked, flashed warnings about a new virus attacking both the lungs and the nervous system. Anchors spoke in clipped, urgent tones. But louder than the facts were the whispers, blaming certain nations, certain neighborhoods, certain faiths. Social feeds filled with accusations and threats. Neighbors eyed each other with suspicion. Whole towns closed their borders to anyone who looked or worshipped differently. Fear was being broadcast like a weapon. My chest tightened. I turned to Jesus. His face held sorrow, yet hope still burned in his eyes. The greater sickness is fear, he said. Watch how it tries to divide, and watch how love stands against it. Then I saw the other side. In a tiny clinic, a young doctor collapsed from exhaustion. An older janitor lifted him, helped him sip water, and whispered a prayer over him. In a church basement, volunteers sewed cloth masks long after midnight. Food trucks parked outside apartment blocks, handing out hot soup with no questions asked. I saw a Muslim family and a Christian family share a backyard fence, passing medicine and fresh bread over the rail. College students delivered groceries to strangers they'd met online. A tattooed biker group set up free oxygen stations along rural roads. I saw circles of people standing 6 feet apart in empty parking lots, heads bowed, praying aloud under open sky. Their voices rose together, weaving hope through the air, and the fear that had looked so large began to shrink. Governments and screens still shouted, yet street by street, kindness grew louder. The illness remained deadly, but wrapped around it, I saw threads of gold, acts of courage, sacrifice, and faith. I watched those threads glow brighter until they formed a net of light, holding humanity together even as bodies fell ill. Fear tried to isolate, but compassion kept building bridges. Jesus turned toward me, and I followed his gaze. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. It was like a vast, endless sky filled with moving golden threads. They shimmered, connecting people across the earth, like living
beams of light. Some were thick and blazing, others faint and fragile, yet each one pulsed with warmth and meaning. This, Jesus said, is the power of prayer. Every thread is a prayer spoken or even whispered in love. I watched, stunned, as one of the golden threads glowed brighter and floated gently toward us. Jesus touched it, and suddenly I saw where it had begun. It was me. A week before my collapse, I had sat at my desk in the back row of English class. I noticed Zoe Ramos, quiet, pale, withdrawn, barely holding herself together. She always sat alone. That day she looked especially lost. I hadn't said anything out loud, but in my heart I whispered, "Please help her, God. Please let her know she matters." That was all, a single thought. Now, standing beside Jesus, I saw where that silent plea had gone. The thread moved into Zoe's home. Her mom, who had been too tired to notice her daughter's fading light, suddenly paused in the kitchen like a tug on her heart and walked down the hall to knock gently on Zoe's door.
Later that day, her counselor, already overwhelmed with paperwork, decided without knowing why to check in on Zoe one more time before the weekend. And that evening, as Zoe sat by herself, scrolling through a storm of dark thoughts, a single message pinged her phone. It was from someone she hadn't talked to in months, just saying, "Hey, thinking about you today." Zoe didn't cry, not then, but something inside her paused. The hopelessness cracked just a little, and light slipped in. The thread returned to the sky, glowing brighter than before. Jesus looked at me with a smile that filled the whole world. No prayer is wasted, not one. And in that moment, I understood. Love is action, but it is also intention. Words spoken and words never voiced. A heart that reaches out, even in silence, can shift eternity. The vision faded, and I found myself standing again in that endless ocean of warmth beside Jesus. My heart felt like it was being torn in two. I looked at him, my voice trembling. "Please," I whispered, "don't send me back. I don't want to go. Not after all this, not after feeling this love." Tears filled my eyes, and I felt like a child begging to stay in her father's arms. Down there, it's loud and cold. People don't understand. What if I'm not strong enough? Jesus stepped closer, and his presence wrapped around me like sunlight through a window on the coldest day. His eyes, still full of every color at once, met mine with perfect gentleness. "I know it's hard," he said softly, "but you were born for such a time as this." He reached out and touched my chest, right where my heart would be. "There is a fire here, small but steady. That flame came from me. I need you to carry it into a darkening world. Be a lamp in the approaching twilight." I shook my head, still afraid. "But I'm just a kid. What can I even do?" "Courage," he said, "is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to act while afraid, and I will be with you always." He didn't shout, he didn't pressure me, but his words landed with more weight than thunder, and somehow the warmth of his voice gave me just enough strength to nod. I'll try, I whispered. He smiled. That's all I ask. There was a pulling sensation, like being yanked backwards at the speed of light. Then everything hurts. My chest felt like it was caving in, like a giant hand had crushed me and wouldn't let go. I could hear shouting, fast and urgent. Sirens. Someone was holding my face, pressing something over my mouth. Oxygen. I tried to move, but my limbs wouldn't respond. A woman's voice said, "She's back, we've got her." I blinked and caught a glimpse of flashing red lights through the ambulance windows. The pain in my chest was unbearable, but the heaviness of that other place was gone. In its place was this sharp, agonizing reality. I wanted to tell them what I'd just seen, what I just felt, but I couldn't speak. Everything was too bright, too loud, too real. They rushed me into the emergency room. I remember faces above me, machines beeping, someone calling out numbers. Then blackness again, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that comes with exhaustion and medication. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital bed, tubes in my arms, wires stuck to my chest. My mom sitting beside me with tears streaming down her face. Her name is Rachel. She's a nurse, but in that moment, she wasn't calm or clinical. She was just my mom, gripping my hand like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. "You scared me so bad, baby," she whispered. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to comfort her, but I also wanted to tell her everything. Not yet. A few hours later, my dad Caleb arrived. He's usually the steady one, the logical thinker, the guy who doesn't flinch in a crisis. But when the cardiologist explained that I had suffered
a full cardiac arrest for nearly 4 minutes with zero signs of brain damage, even Dad looked shaken. 4 minutes is a long time, the doctor said, flipping through the charts. In 23 years, I've never seen recovery like this. It's a miracle. Later, when Mom stepped out to get coffee, Dad sat at the edge of the bed and said quietly, "Something happened to you, didn't it?" I nodded, eyes filling. He looked down for a long time, then said, "I've only told one other person this, but in college, I died for a few seconds in a car crash. I saw something too. That's when I knew I wasn't alone. I came home 3 days after the arrest, moving slowly, clutching a pillow to my chest each time I coughed. Yet everything around me felt new. The sky looked like fresh paint, the smell of rain on pavement, the sound of Logan's laughter drifting down the hall. Each small thing glowed with meaning. I had lived in this house my whole life, but now it felt as if the walls breathed and the windows whispered, 'Welcome back.' The first person I told every detail to was Juliet. We sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor, tissues everywhere. She listened, wide-eyed, then hugged me so hard my sternum popped. A day later, Zoe came by, cheeks pink from the cold. After we talked, she said, 'Your prayer, maybe it saved me.' I knew then the visions weren't only warnings, they were marching orders. That Saturday, Mom helped me sweep the garage and set up folding chairs. Logan dragged in the old camping lanterns. By 7 o'clock, 9 people showed up. Juliet, Zoe, Marco from chemistry, Mrs. Delgado, who lives 2 doors down, and a few classmates I barely knew. We called it the Heart Prep Circle. No fancy program, just tea, an open Bible, and honest talk about fear, faith, and how to love our community if storms, blackouts, or sickness come. We prayed out loud. At first the words were shaky, but they grew steadier. We planned simple things, storing extra blankets for elderly neighbors, learning CPR like Juliet did, saving cash envelopes in case the banks go dark, checking on island families in our town whose relatives live near rising seas. Marco offered to fix Mrs. Delgado's generator. Zoe started a list of people who live alone so we can call them if phones fail. Every act felt like lighting another small candle against a widening night. Week by week, more chairs filled. Some nights we laughed until our sides hurt. Other nights we cried and laid hands on whoever couldn't hold their own head up. I kept seeing those golden threads, invisible yet pulsing between us, weaving our prayers into something stronger than any storm. When doubt crept in, I remembered Jesus' eyes full of every color at once, telling me I was his lamp for the twilight to come. If you are reading this, please hear me. Stockpile love first. Yes, store water, learn first aid, charge your batteries, but hoard compassion even more. Forgive quickly, speak kindly, listen like each heartbeat matters because it does. One sincere prayer from your heart can travel farther than any signal tower and burn brighter than any city grid. Do not let fear write the final chapter. The light I met on the other side still burns here in every selfless act and every quiet prayer. Keep your lamp trimmed. The night may deepen, but dawn is already on its way.